9 brain habits the longest lived people do every day. Before we begin, a gentle note. This video is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. If you're dealing with a neurological condition, severe anxiety, depression, or memory concerns, use this as a supportive guide alongside your healthcare team. Now, let's talk about the kind of brain health most people miss. Because the longest lived people don't protect their brains with one miracle trick. They protect them by living in a way that keeps the mind less overwhelmed, more connected, and more emotionally steady. And here's the secret. It's not about being smart, it's about being mentally organized and nervously regulated. A lot of cognitive decline isn't just age, it's accumulated overload. Years of stress, distraction, and emotional weight the brain was never designed to carry non-stop. So today, I'm sharing 9 brain habits you'll notice again and again in people who stay sharp into very old age, habits that keep the mind clean, clear, and resilient. These are not the usual go exercise or sleep more lines. This is about how they think, how they focus, and how they carry life. Let's begin. 1. They protect their attention like it's money. The longest-lived, sharpest people do something quietly powerful every day. They don't let their attention get robbed. They don't treat their mind like a public park where anything can run through it. News panic, random notifications, doom scrolling, other people's drama, worst-case scenarios. They choose what enters. Because attention is the doorway to memory. If you can't hold attention, you can't form strong memories. So they use a simple mental rule. If it doesn't help me act wisely today, it doesn't get unlimited access to my brain. They might still stay informed, but they don't marinate in chaos. They keep their mental environment clean, like a home. You wouldn't leave every door open at night, so why do we leave every mental door open all day? And that one habit, guarding attention, protects the brain more than people realize. 2. They keep promises to themselves, even tiny ones. This is a big one. Long-lived people tend to trust themselves, not because life was easy, but because they practice self-integrity. They do what they said they would do, in small ways, not massive, dramatic, New Year, New Me vows. Tiny, daily promises. I'll call my sister today. I'll finish what I started. I'll handle that one thing I'm avoiding. Why does this matter for the brain? Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, your brain gets a signal of safety and stability. Your nervous system relaxes when it believes you, and a relaxed nervous system thinks better. But when you constantly break your own promises, even small ones, the brain feels unsettled, like it can't predict the future. Long-lived people build a brain that trusts its own leadership. That reduces internal conflict, and internal conflict is exhausting. 3. They have a one-thing way of thinking. Here's a truth that sounds almost too simple. Multitasking is one of the fastest ways to feel mentally old. The brain hates fragmentation. The longest-lived people often have a calm, almost old-school way of living, one thing at a time. When they eat, they eat. When they talk, they talk. When they fix something, they fix it. This doesn't mean they're slow, it means they're clean. They don't split their mind into 10 tiny pieces all day, and that keeps the brain efficient. Because focus is like a muscle. You either train it or you lose it. So if you want to borrow this habit, try it today. For just one activity, do it with your full presence. No extra input, no background noise, no second screen, not forever, just once a day. The brain loves the feeling of being whole. 4. They reduce open loops before bed. This one is huge, and it's not about sleeping more. It's about stopping your brain from carrying unfinished business overnight. Long-lived people tend to have a simple psychological hygiene. They close loops. They don't end the day with 20 unspoken thoughts and unresolved tasks bouncing around their head like ping-pong balls. Because open loops create mental noise, and mental noise becomes stress. And chronic stress is like sandpaper on the brain. So they do something like this. They write down what's unfinished, not to solve it right then, just to park it somewhere safe. They don't trust their brain to hold everything. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Your brain is for living, not for being a storage unit. A simple end-of-day brain dump is one of the most protective mental habits there is, especially as we age. 5. They practice emotional cleanup, not emotional suppression. This is where a lot of people get stuck. Some people try to stay positive by pushing emotions down. But that doesn't make you strong. That makes your nervous system tense. The longest-lived people tend to process emotions in small daily doses, like washing dishes instead of letting them pile up for weeks. They don't let resentment ferment. They don't let grief become a secret basement room. They don't pretend they're fine when they're not. They acknowledge what's real, then they move forward. A simple habit you'll notice. They name what they feel without turning it into a life story. Not, my life is a mess, but I'm feeling overwhelmed today. Not, I'm broken, but I'm sad right now. That language matters because your brain believes the words you repeat. And repeating identity-level negativity makes the brain feel unsafe. Long-lived people feel deeply, but they don't drown in the feeling. They clean it up daily. 6. They keep their mind socially sharp through real conversation. This is not be social as a generic tip. This is about how conversation trains the brain. The longest-lived people often stay mentally quick because they keep practicing something modern life is erasing. Real conversation, not just texting, not just likes, not just background chatter. Real conversation requires attention, timing, memory, emotional reading, word finding, listening, responding, repairing misunderstandings. That's heavy brain training disguised as life. And here's the key. Long-lived people don't just talk, they stay interested. They ask questions. They listen like they mean it. They stay curious about people. Curiosity keeps the brain awake because boredom and isolation don't just make life smaller, they make the mind smaller. 7. They keep a sense of humor, especially about themselves. This habit is wildly underrated. The longest-lived people often have this quality. They don't treat everything like an emergency. They laugh, they joke, they tease, they release pressure, and this is the important part, they can laugh at themselves without shame. That ability protects the brain because humor is a neurological reset. It breaks rumination. It reduces threat response. It reconnects you to other people. A brain that can laugh is a brain that can breathe. And if you want a practical way to train this, once a day, find one thing that makes you smile, not forced positivity, real amusement. A funny story, a silly memory, a video of a dog acting like a comedian. It's not childish, it's protective, because a mind trapped in seriousness becomes rigid, and rigidity is the enemy of longevity. 8. They maintain identity flexibility. This is a powerful brain habit. Long-lived people tend not to freeze themselves into one identity. They don't cling to, this is who I am and I can't change. They stay flexible, they stay adaptive. They update their thinking. They'll say things like, I used to believe that, now I see it differently. I'm learning. I'm adjusting. I'm open. That flexibility is cognitive youth because the brain declines faster when the mind becomes rigid, when it refuses new information, refuses new perspectives, refuses change. Identity flexibility doesn't mean you abandon your values. It means you keep your mind elastic, and that elasticity protects memory and emotional resilience. It helps you recover from life instead of being crushed by it. 9. They live with a morning anchor and a daytime reset. This is not the same as your brain rinse ritual, and it's not a list of habits. This is about structure. Long-lived people often have two stabilizers in the day. a morning anchor, something that starts the day in a predictable way, and a daytime reset, something that clears the mind halfway through. It could be as simple as morning anchor, the same chair, the same drink, the same quiet moment. Daytime reset, step away and do one small reset that changes your mental state. Why does this protect the brain? Because predictability reduces cognitive load. When your day has anchors, your brain isn't constantly scanning, what's happening next? What did I forget? What do I do now? Anchors make the brain feel held, and a held brain performs better, even when life is stressful. Especially when life is stressful, how these 9 habits work together. Here's what's really happening underneath all of this. The longest-lived people create a life that keeps the brain from being constantly overstimulated, emotionally overloaded, and mentally scattered. They protect attention, they close loops, they process emotion, they stay mentally engaged through real conversation, they stay flexible in identity, they reduce internal chaos, they reset pressure before it becomes damage. And when the brain lives in that kind of environment, memory stays stronger, focus lasts longer, mood becomes steadier, and life feels clearer. Not perfect, clearer. You don't need to do all 9. Pick one that feels easiest. If your brain feels noisy, protect your attention. If your brain feels heavy, close open loops. If your brain feels tense, practice emotional cleanup. If your brain feels dull, bring back real conversation. If life feels rigid, practice identity flexibility. Start small, because the brain doesn't reward intensity, it rewards repetition. And if you want, comment 9, and I'll give you a simple weekly plan that rotates these habits without overwhelming you. Subscribe, share, and keep building your future mind the ReInspired way.
I hope this video brought you value and re-inspired you. If so, please subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. And if anybody you know could use a little re-inspiration, please send it to them. Thank you so much for watching.